Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It is November 4th, and I'm calling to order the special meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Asadrian?
Here.
Brotman?
Here.
Garpetian?
Here.
Kasakian?
Here.
And Mayor Najarian.
Here, may we have your report?
The agenda for the Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on October 30th, 2025 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What is the first item?
Item number 1, Police Department regarding jail medical services request for proposals. A resolution adopting the Police Department's request for proposals for jail medical services and authorizing the city clerk to advertise for proposals. Mayor, I do not have cards or calls on this item.
Okay, Mr. Galanian.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor Najarian, members of City Council. Since 2014, our police department has been utilizing a private company to provide medical services for police arrestees and inmates. The existing contract will expire end of June in 2026, and in preparation for that, our police department staff is requesting authorization to release a request for proposals, issue a request for proposals, and solicit new proposals from vendors in the industry. If you'd like more details and have any questions, Captain Corrigan is available in the front seat, and ready and willing.
Captain?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council.
I'm not sure we have any questions yet, but let me put that before us.
I'm comfortable with the item. I don't have questions.
Okay, I do have one question. Is the medical, and it's not directly related to the issuance of the RFP, which I'm in support of, but when we do have people in the jail and they do need medical attention, is that rendered without regard to whether they're our arrestees, whether they're other agencies' arrestees, whether they're being held temporarily to sleep off I don't know if you let people sleep off. I'm thinking of the Andy Griffith show where they put the town drunk in, he sleeps it off, and they let him go. Is every detainee afforded the medical care if needed?
Great question, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yes, the moment someone comes through the door of our jail, they are in our care, and we make sure that they receive any necessary medical attention, whether that means calling the fire department, transporting them to a hospital, or using the contracted medical services to have a response to our jail to take care of them there.
Oh, that's great. If there's other questions?
I just have one.
Yes, Councilman.
Just procedural question. Is the cost something that we eat up through the contract, or, I mean, is it different pricing when we get to use the hospital versus this outside contracting firm? How does that work?
It is. So that's part of the benefit of this contract, or having this type of service contracted for, is that there is definitely a cost savings. When we go to a hospital, we take our people to the ER, and obviously that is the most expensive way to get somebody medical care. Whereas if we bring in the contracted service to the jail, it's at a much lower cost.
And then are there other police departments that have different kinds of partnerships with their local hospitals?
I can't speak to other police departments, but when we take people into our hospitals here in the city, we pay whatever that rate is that we get charged. So we have seen that it is to our benefit fiscally to make sure that we have this kind of a contract in order, so that we aren't paying as much as it is to take somebody to the ER in the cases that we use the contracted medical services for minor medical issues.
So what if somebody has insurance or Medi-Cal or Medicare? How does that work?
To my understanding, we don't bill on the back end for that. I could be wrong, and I welcome the chief if he has anything additional on that, but it's part of the contract that we have, and under the contract, there are a certain number of medical clearances we get on a monthly basis, and so that is just part of the contract that we pay for.
I would like, not necessarily for this proposal that's in front of us today, but I would like to get some details on if other agencies, or if there are opportunities for us to get reimbursed or if somebody has medical coverage, for us to be able to utilize theirs instead of us paying for it.
Very good. We can definitely get back to you on that.
Captain, what is your position again with regard to the jails? Do you oversee the?
I'm the captain of the Field Services Division, and that includes all of our patrol operations 24/7, as well as our custody facility.
Custody also. So back when we were having our little discussion about the ICE detainees, I had done a little bit of research and saw that the county civil grand jury had rated us as a superior facility. Is that still the case?
Absolutely. We have a great facility. We bring people into it, and they're amazed at how clean it is and how friendly the staff is and every other aspect of it. It is a top-tier facility for sure.
Are tours available for council members?
I can make that happen if you'd like to.
Can we pay a little bit extra to have an extended stay for one or more of them?
I won't touch that with the 10-foot pole, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hotel you're looking for here.
I'm just kidding, guys. We wouldn't lock you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, Captain, Mr. Kasakian.
Captain, when was the last time this service provided to the department had gone out for proposals?
It has not.
Okay, so
We've had this contract for 11 years, and this will be the first time we go out to RFP.
I just want the public to be aware of that. This is, again, in the spirit of transparency and openness. Thank you for bringing the item forward. I have no questions. I'm happy to move the item.
I don't know why jail's interesting me tonight. Do we still have the pay-to-stay program with the local courts where a defendant, rather than be placed in the county, can pay the fee to be a detainee of ours?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do still have the pay-to-stay program.
Is that popular?
I guess it depends on your definition of popular, but we do have people that use it. Our jail's not full of pay-to-stay individuals, but it is definitely something that gets used.
Do we have televisions available for
There are.
them? And they can meet their legal counsel if necessary,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
and hygiene facilities, showers, and other products to stay.
Absolutely, and they're fed 3 times a day. All their needs are taken care of in our facility.
And what's our capacity of that facility?
It's a 96-bed jail.
All right, thank you. Very impressive.
Happy to move the item.
Mayor, as soon as I said there's no callers, I did receive a call.
Then let's hear from the public.
Fernando Roldan. Fernando, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So an interesting report that you guys have on the jail medical services request, and I'm glad that you guys are providing the quality of service. However, I do have to remind the mayor, the council, and of course our police officers, chief and captains, please make sure that, if you do ever arrest anybody, especially people with disabilities, make sure that they also have the quality of care that they also have. Just talking like, for example, if they need canes, they need canes. If they need a wheelchair, they need a wheelchair. And of course, if they need some kind of medical equipment, please, I ask the police department to, just make sure that under the Americans with Disabilities Act, that they have all the necessary reasonable accommodations that they need. As long as, of course, you guys are watching them to make sure that they have all the necessary requirements. And again, that's my 2 cents on that, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you. And go Dodgers and go Herbert Hoover, even though we lost to Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion at 1A?
I'll move the item.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Asadrian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
and Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item number 2, community development regarding release of requests for proposals to develop city-owned property located at 210 North Maryland Avenue, City Park Lot Number 4. A, motion directing staff to release a request for a proposal for development of city parking lot number 4. Mayor, I do have 3 cards for this item, and it looks like 2 callers at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, as you may recall, during the budget study sessions, we had requested council and we had shared with council the structural imbalance that we are facing as far as our budget's concerned. As part of that process, council directed staff to explore the possibility of ground leasing certain city-owned parking lots for development, getting proposals from developers with the potential of revenue sharing with the city. As such, staff has identified a parking lot in the downtown area, parking lot number 4, located at 210 North Maryland Avenue, for such an opportunity. And I am going to turn it over to Mr. Calvert for a brief presentation and open it up for questions.
Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Galanian, councils, mayor and council members. In addition to Mr. Galanian's comments regarding the budget balancing strategies, this is also a strategy and a policy that was identified in our adopted housing element that we would consider city properties and pursue potential RFPs as a means to develop housing. So we're also fulfilling that requirement as well. But we are asking for authorization to release an RFP for lot number 4, which is at 210 North Maryland. You can see that identified here directly behind the Alex Theater. That is the area highlighting the red box there. The parking lot directly to the south is actually a privately owned parking lot, so that is not part of consideration here. In summary, we have left this RFP relatively wide open in terms of proposals. Again, whatever we receive and whatever is reviewed by council, and if there's a desire to move forward, we are not obligated to accept these proposals and obligated to pursue any sort of development if we don't see something that we see as befitting of the city. But one of the reasons why we left that open is that we could have an opportunity for housing here. We could also have an opportunity for potentially, say, a hotel. This property is exempt under Surplus Land Act as it is underneath below a half an acre. So we anticipate maybe those kind of proposals. There may also be proposals that we're not kind of readily seeing that we may receive here. So we're not trying to close the box necessarily on what we may see brought forth. So really open to any development types, if you will, as long as it does fit within the downtown specific plan, our zoning and land use code. We're seeking recommendations on that final structure, and as Mr. Galanian highlighted there, some sort of return to the city, whether it's revenue share, if it's revenue from the ground lease itself. If it's a hotel, we have an opportunity to gather TOT from that as well. So a positive financial return is an absolute must if we're going to move forward with that. And then any potential community benefit. And what we're asking from council here, in addition to the authorization, is if you have feedback for things that you would like us to include. Again, we left this relatively open-ended. Are there certain community benefits you would like to see incorporated into a proposal? We can fit that into the RFP. I would caution that this is a relatively small site, so you may not see a significant impact in terms of a community benefit. If there's a desire to replace some of the parking, currently I believe there's 48 parking spaces at this location. One of the reasons why we chose this site first, one, as we have explained during our land use element discussions, our priorities, our focus are the downtown parking lots. This is a place where we do see as an opportunity for growth, fulfill some of our housing requirements. It's a place where this kind of development is suitable. But also, this is a relatively underused parking lot. Based on the information and data that we collected from the parking team, this lot generates about $63,500 annually. If you take that across all the parking spaces, the hours that we collect revenue for parking, that equates to about 3 hours per day of each parking space being paid for. That does not take into account, obviously, events, weekends, things of that nature, but it is one of our most underutilized parking lots. In comparison, if you go directly north, the lot directly behind Goodwill, that's about twice as much. We see about 6 hours worth of paid revenue for, or paid use of that parking space. So depending on the feedback that we receive from council, if we receive the authorization, we would release this RFP. We anticipate here in the next couple of weeks. We would come back to city council. We do not anticipate doing a scoring system necessarily. We do have a criteria in there that we would evaluate, that we would essentially maybe rank, but not necessarily assign a score to. One of the reasons we would not do that is because we've left this open-ended. Priorities may change by the time we come back with these proposals. Maybe a greater desire for housing, greater desire for a hotel, greater desire for something else that's in there. So each proposal is not going to be apples to apples. Financial structures may also be different. We want to be able to provide that opportunity, that information to the council to make that decision, rather than us kind of coming in, ranking and scoring, and then deciding which one, or recommending which one we think is best, because this ultimately is about the council and the community priorities. Again, I would highlight that the city has no obligation to do anything. Even after the release of this RFP, receivable submittals, and even if we select some preferred proposals in there to move forward with to continue to evaluate, we are not obligated to move forward with that development. So other than that, I will end my presentation there and happy to answer any questions.
I just have one question at the beginning, I guess, of our consideration of this. Do you appreciate the awkwardness of the timing that this presents council, especially in light of the intense community interest in some of those other Cora properties on Verdugo, in Montrose? And do you think the awkwardness of that timing may unfairly be generate some opposition to this, which would otherwise be a fairly straightforward use of a underutilized parking lot?
We do recognize, we do appreciate that. I think one of the reasons we wanted to bring this forward, if I actually could give two reasons, is obviously we have a financial situation that we do need to rectify. We also have a housing situation we have to rectify. But also, as we spoke at these meetings, we discussed how this process will work and what our priorities were. We are also in this work here to demonstrate that this is our priority downtown area, not these other locations, and that's why we brought that one forward.
Thank you. Council members?
I do have
Councilmember Asaturi?
provided that this is going to be an open-ended, and anyone can submit anything, if down the line there was opportunities for, say, something comes back for a hotel, but we wanted to incorporate sitting down with labor and having labor at the table and having certain labor requirements, would this be the good time to tell you? I don't know how my colleagues feel about that, but, or, would you prefer that it happens down the line? Because, you might be going into negotiations or whatever it may be.
I think that getting to the specifics as part of the RFP is probably not something we would do. It's something that we could make note of if that is the type of proposal and that is the majority consideration by the city council. Could also be something that we would discuss later, but I do think that if we were to entertain hotels, we would want that information out there sooner rather than later to inform those proposals.
So I'm not asking to reduce the scope of the RFP. I'm just saying, like, if there was a hotel, then there would be a possible labor component to that.
I think
the
if
council choose
the
to.
majority of the council would like to see that in there, we could say something along the lines of to include in their considerations that labor as part of any proposal. That way they can make an informed decision when they are submitting.
Okay.
Mr. Brotman?
Just to follow up on that, because in the briefing, we talked about this, and you explained, and maybe you can explain here, that question of when prevailing wage kicks in, because what you said to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but that if we accept any proposal that, in which we take less than a market-based rate on, a lease rate on, then we are obligated, or the developer is obligated to pay prevailing wages. Can you just explain that? Because I think probably with a hotel, that would be the case, but maybe you could explain it.
Potentially, not for sure in terms of the hotel, but if we offer any sort of subsidy, discount on the land itself, much like when we do our affordable housing developments, prevailing wage kicks in at that point because we have offered something up as an incentive for them.
Anything below what some market assessed value of that property would be, not necessarily that where we're doing a $1 per month ground lease like we would do for affordable housing, but anything where we're taking less than what the market would basically would be assessed.
Anything that could be considered a subsidy, a discount, things of that nature, yes.
Okay.
I have a few questions.
Would you like to?
I'd like to hear from the public first. I have tons of questions.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I would say before Mr. Calvert sits down is that in the past, when there were proposals for this site, there was a significant community concern regarding the parking situation, especially since I know that it's an underutilized parking lot, but there are some immediate businesses that may rely on it. In terms of when you say underutilized, my question is, in what time span was that calculated?
That would have been out over the past year.
Okay, so the reason I would say that is because right now, consumer confidence is a little lower. We've seen it impact our sales tax revenues. Maybe perhaps people are not out there spending as much money as they once were. I would compare the numbers that we are looking at in this last 12-month period to perhaps a period when our sales tax revenues were higher than what we expected, and the economic situation was better than it is currently. I think those will be more reflective as to what the actual usage numbers, the utilization of that parking lot were. I know that, at various times when certain restaurants on Brander are doing well, those parking lots are all highly utilized most hours of the day. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Let's hear from the public.
Mayor, I have 3 cards. First card is Mike Mohill, followed by Alan Durham, followed by Beth Brooks.
Good evening, Glenview residents. My name is Mike Mohill. Council members, why are we selling these parking lots? This is just one of many that's on the books. Why are we selling them? One simple reason. We need the money. We're $34 million in debt. Where are we going to get the money? If we could sell our mothers and children, we'd sell that too, because we need $34 million. These parking lots, this is all within the DSP. And I'm sure when Mr. Najarian approved the DSP, he never thought that the city would be selling its parking lots. They're important to have for different businesses. What are you going to do, just wipe them out? You are not business friendly. It's all because of the Green New Deal, started with Mr. Brotman and his colleagues, Ellen Gasatrian, Artie Kasaki, in some case, even you, Mayor Najarian, for the Green New Deal, and this is costing the city millions of dollars in debt. GWP, we got bonds. Let's talk about the infrastructure we don't have money for. We learned from the GWP manager that our water lines underground are years behind in repairs. How about our sidewalks and streets? They're crumbling too. Where are we going to get the money? Of course, we're going to sell our parking lots. Wherever we have a parking lot, there's a sign that says, for sale or lease to the highest bidder going forward. And thank this city council and previous city council for the bind that we're in today. We have 682 apartments planning for Sears. We don't know where that's going to go. Will these new apartments we're planning for have green spaces? This is a disaster. This should never have happened in the first place. Had this council and previous council been more responsible. Ladies and gentlemen, the viewing audience, Dan Brotman, Ellen Gasatrian, and Art Jarrett are up for re-election next year. Please vote them out of office. Thank you.
I beat you to it, Mr. Mohill.
And for the record, can we, once he sits down? We are not selling these parking lots.
Correct, counsel?
And, well, I'll just leave it there. We are not selling these parking lots. So I know Mr. Mohill sometimes has trouble with facts, but the fact is we are not selling these parking lots.
Mr. Galan, why don't you remind everyone what exactly we are doing and what discretion council will hold going forward with this piece of property?
Thank you, Mayor Najarian. As Mr. Calvert indicated in his presentation, this is the first step of seeking authorization to release a request for proposals. Council or the city is under no obligation to move forward with any of the proposed developments. Once the RFP is released and we have received proposals, CDD and Mr. Calvert will bring all those proposals after an initial evaluation and review to council to make a decision to make a selection, or 2 or 3, depending on the nature and extent of the proposals, before we even entertain the idea of negotiating the terms of them. And even after we have completed our negotiations, depending on council's direction and input, it will come back to council for a potential award of a development agreement.
And the proposals could involve a lease, could involve a joint venture, I presume, could involve an outright sale, could involve residential, commercial,
Hotel.
amusement parks, parks,
Water park.
swimming pool, ice rink. It's completely open unless council restricts it at this point, correct?
Correct. It'll be sky's the limit, but obviously the site has certain limitations because of its size. But we have, just one point of clarification, we have ruled out the sale of the site. So we are focusing on ground lease at this point in time.
Can you say that again?
We have ruled out the sale of this city-owned parking lot. The only available option in the RFP will be for a long-term ground lease.
Thank you.
Mayor and council members, the reason why we did that as well is to make sure that we, as a city and a city council, retain that control. You'll note in the RFP that we asked that any proposal fits within our existing regulatory framework. You may hear comments or suggestions that this could be a density bonus or whatever it may be. That is not the case. That control lies entirely within the city council's hands. So if you tell us that you would like them to stay within our zoning requirements, our land use requirements, our density requirements, that's exactly what will happen.
Thank you. Let's continue with the speakers, please.
Alan?
And if we could have that clock adjusted to standard time.
Yes, Mayor, I'll take care of it.
Mayor Najarian, members of the council, I'm Alan Durham. In my opinion, city parking lots are a public amenity, and therefore they are also a community benefit. Lot 4 is, to me, a pivotal parking lot. Morning, afternoon, evening, I have rarely gotten a parking space in the parking lot behind Goodwill. I almost always have to go to Lot 4. It may be somewhat of an overflow lot, but at least it allows patrons of the businesses to park. Lot 4 is directly behind the Alex Theater. It's right across from the Lemley Theaters, which often attract a lot of parking. It's across the street from the Panda Inn. It's around the corner from the Maryland Hotel, which I believe is being redeveloped into residential. I don't think average parking usage rather than peak usage is the correct measure to use. Yeah. It may be underutilized for many hours in the day, but when it's peak, activity, it's needed. The packet for this item states that there was no public outreach. Did the city contact the surrounding businesses about this RFP before this meeting today? I assume not applicable under outreach means that no one was contacted. If not, it should state who was. I often hear council say that we need to support and grow our small businesses. This proposal to eliminate parking lot number 4 seems to contradict that particular goal of the council. The proposed RFP in the packet states specifically that the RFP will not have any requirement that the developer replace the 43 public parking spaces. This is in direct contradiction to what the council and city staff has said about the potential Coro designation of the lot up in the Montrose Shopping Park. Oh, if that became residential, we would replace, the developer would be required to replace all the public parking that is there now. So, and that just seems to be perhaps an effort to diffuse the opposition to that Coro designation. But I don't know why the Montrose Shopping Park would be any different than Lot 4 downtown with all the businesses there. Thank you.
Mr. Golanian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to clarify a couple of comments that the speaker had made. The fact that we have not noted in your staff report regarding parking requirement is, again, because of the limitation, the size of this city-owned parking lot, which is significantly smaller than the parking lots that were mentioned up in Montrose, lot number 3, and lot number 30, I believe, on Verdugo Road. If we had made that a requirement, this site will not have been viable for any decent or for the developers to issue proposals on.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Beth Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor, for, talking about the elephant in the room because the public knew they were being, gaslit or gaslighted about all these lots. So the timing is absolutely bizarre. I just want to address what Mr. Golanian said because he basically said, well, since it's a smaller parking lot, we don't have to tell the Alex Theater or the Lemley Theater or the Panda Inn about it or get their feedback. We only have to tell if it's a larger parking lot. I don't think those business owners would be very happy about that that's the excuse used to not tell them. You only had a little parking lot, so you don't count. I think you're going to cut your nose off to spite your face because it's not just this parking lot. I mean, I looked at all the addresses. I have the photographs of all the parking lots that are potentially on the chopping block. It's all downtown. It's all over the place. So businesses are going to be decimated. You're going to have a ghost town of potentially housing that doesn't even have to be affordable housing. Exempt surplus housing doesn't have to have any affordable requirements. They could just pay a fee. So you don't even have affordable housing. You didn't reach out to the businesses. I don't know if planning did any data, if they pulled any, data online about loss of revenue with no parking, because I'm assuming it's pretty high. And the business owners are going to get pretty upset. And exactly, what Brilliant Allen said about the fact that you cannot determine whether a parking lot is effective or successful. I know it's based upon revenue when they're part-time events. It's the same for a church. Are you going to take every church parking lot because people only go on Sunday? I mean, is that what that means? That everybody gets to park only if they, visit that lot at a certain time? What he said is about peak hours. You cannot determine that. Regarding community benefits, I think we saw that already with Sears, that it's not legally binding. They could promise you the world. They could promise you an amusement park on top of housing, and you won't get it because they don't have to do that. There's a hotel down the block, although possibly you want a hotel because of the Olympics. And it can be a 6-story building, and Mr. Golanian failed to say that it's a lease of 55 years with an option to renew. So that's not my idea of just saying it's a lease. That's like saying, I pay him a lot of money and it ends up being $1 million, So that's critical to know because a 55-year lease, even though you're going to retain the property, we'll all be gone. I'll be first, or maybe Mr. Mohill, but, I'll be next. But, sorry, Mr. Mohill, but that's quite a lease. For all intents and purposes, those businesses are finished. They're finished. And you want to build housing all around the area. As you keep building, there's less housing, but you're affecting businesses because they're all over. It's behind Porto's, Bye-Bye, Artsock, across from the library. They're all on the chopping block. Thank you.
Mr. Golanian.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor, but I need to correct a comment that the speaker made. I never said the reason we hadn't reached out to the businesses is because of the size of the parking lot. I made a comparison in size of this parking lot versus the one, Lot 30 and Lot 3 in Montrose. That's the reason we haven't specifically made a requirement for replacing the parking. In addition to that, there is an adjacent private parking lot, as Mr. Calvert mentioned, right next to this city-owned parking lot. We have a parking structure on Artsakh that is not at capacity. And Mr. Durham mentioned the parking lot behind Goodwill is also available.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Edgman Hagopian. Edgman, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, thank you. Hello, council members and staff. I want to thank the council and the staff members for putting this proposal out. I'm in support of developing this lot because it falls in the DSPA, which the other lots in Montrose and Lot 30 and Lot 3 did not. So this is within the area that the city and the committees in the past have decided to have high residential building. So I'm in support of that. However, I have a question or an alternative proposal for the city council and staff to consider. Based on the historical events and data, developers are taking advantage of our city. The best example would be the Americana and Mr. Crusoe, where other projects that he has and contracts with other cities, they generate lease revenue. But I believe the revenue that we generate from Americana is substantially less compared to other cities. Putting that aside and not getting into it too much, why are we not, since I think we do not have the investment development expertise within our city, which is okay, why aren't we not focusing on partnering with retirement investment companies or hiring professional real estate development firms to manage and develop our lots and future development opportunities? And I also wanted to point out that the reason I'm emphasizing we do not have the expertise on the city council nor in the city to look at investments, I noticed the same deficiencies when we were looking at the investment portfolio that the city has. It has generated, despite having $1.1 billion, it has generated 3.2% revenue, and it's significantly less compared to the other cities, not surrounding cities, like the city of Beverly Hills, which hires Charles Schwab, a professional investment firm, to manage their investment portfolio. I want the best for our city. I want to maximize the revenues on all the assets that we have, and I would like you to consider moving in that direction of entering joint venture or hiring those investment firms to develop our cities and generate revenue for our cities. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Susan Bosayan. Susan, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Najarian and City Council members. I strongly oppose the proposed plans to develop our city-owned parking lots into leased rental income housing or a hotel for that matter. I understand the need for additional housing, but eliminating our already limited public parking is not the answer. Removing a parking lot that serves the Alex Theater, the First Baptist Church, the Lamel Theater, several restaurants, and several mom-and-pop businesses on Maryland and Brand Boulevard will have a huge negative impact. Patronage to many of these businesses will decrease because parking is already scarce in our city. Doing this will make it so much worse. Calling it an underused parking lot, but not including evenings and weekends, as Mr. Calvert just mentioned, is very misleading. Those are times when these lots are most utilized, Downtown Glendale needs all the parking it could get. Every single one of the affected businesses and property owners need to be notified about the request for proposals for this parking lot. Too many projects like this are slowly moving forward without proper notification to those directly impacted. Just like the bike lane project on North Grand Boulevard, posting notices and agendas on the city's website is not enough. In the past 4 years, we've seen so many changes in our beautiful city, and it's disheartening to watch Glendale slowly lose what makes it such a wonderful, quaint city to live in. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Glendale is not a New York City. Our neighborhoods and way of life depend on accessibility and balance. Public transit or bicycles as the main means of getting around is simply unreasonable. Considering a hotel in that location is abhorrent. Finally, holding special meetings during work hours, special meetings for projects like this during work hours gives the appearance that these decisions are being moved forward without meaningful public participation. These discussions deserve transparency and full community involvement. I urge you to remove this item from the special meeting agenda and place it on a regular Tuesday night public meeting when more residents can attend and voice their concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fernando Roldan. Fernando, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but most of the people are correct. I mean, that area of behind the Alex Theater for parking lot number 4, it's not a good idea to put even a hotel. I mean, maybe in the future, maybe an apartment, but still, even so, and I'm going to say it before and I'll say it again, if planning to create more homes or apartments, again, please also include people with disabilities. This is why I still insist, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, and Ms. Beth and Mr. Mike Mofield, please create some kind of commission for people with disabilities so we can also be included in these kind of discussions because, really we do need the revenue, but also we need to make sure that there is a certain budget, make sure that we have apartments that are more wheelchair accessible or wheelchair friendly and more affordable, especially for those who are working class citizens like myself, to make sure that we are also included. But most of the people are correct. It's not a good idea at this time, Mr. Mayor, to demolish parking lot 4 because remember every year you also have the annual car show in July, and with that parking lot needs that revenue, especially for those businesses, to make sure that everybody has a good time because we need to make sure that Glendale is not just a place to live, but it can be also a tourist attraction. So I would propose not to put parking lot number 4. Yes, create more apartments, create more units, but not in our parking lots and not in the area. And putting a hotel in parking lot number 4 is not a good idea because first of all, most of that area is also half of the area is downtown. The other half is of course residential area. And as usual, that's my 2 cents on that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that was the last caller.
Okay. I know Mr. Garpetian has some questions.
Yeah. I have some questions from staff. So the parking calculation, that 3 hours a day that you mentioned, that each parking space used, is it based on 24 hours a day or is it just business hours?
No, it's based on the hours that we collect, parking revenue. I believe that's from 8 a.m. to midnight, if I'm not mistaken.
8 a.m. to midnight. And this lot is 14,250 square feet. It's in transitional area, right?
Correct.
DSP. So the regular usage is 2.5 is the FAR.
Correct.
And then height is about 65 feet, 4 stories, if they don't go to incentives.
Correct.
And on a small lot like this, I was looking at the, I had so much to read this weekend, so I didn't get a chance to read all of them. But the setbacks that we have, I don't know, 12 foot, 16 feet, 6 feet, 12 feet. When you make these, setbacks, when you apply them, it makes this lot a lot much smaller than what it is today. Do we have any idea as to what kind of a, because if you have a lot, 14,000 square feet, we can calculate how many units can be built on it based on our code and say this is the price for the lease. We can come up with a number as to what the price for the lease is. You can say price per unit, if you want to sell it is this much. Based on that, you can calculate for lease value, basically. I think we need to have that before we move forward with any RFPs, that it's really wide open. And this is not the first time, but it's kind of interesting that we have an RFP that it doesn't tell the developers anything, doesn't have any, it's really open-ended. And I heard a lot about a hotel and a hotel and a hotel and everything else. I think this is being kind of directed towards that. But as far as the housing goes, we know how many units can be built on this lot based on our, downtown specific plan. And we need to know what kind of a revenue you can generate based on that. So my question is, do you think that developers can make sense out of this lot if they don't use the incentives? And if they do, what do they have to provide to get to that incentives that gives them 95 feet height, 6 stories, and 3.0 FAR? What are the incentives that they have to provide to go to that point?
There are several different opportunities and options. There's requirements for additional open space, diversity in the mixture of units in terms of the bedroom count. If you recall, while you were on council and we updated the specific plan in 2019, we had requirements in there about unit mix to ensure that we were not just creating studios in one bedroom, so we had units in there for families. Certain requirements along multimodal transportation, sustainability. There's many of options that they can choose from.
Yeah, because the other issue that I have is the RFP says that there isn't a requirement to replace the 43 parking spaces, and that will generate some issues because based on today's codes, was it AB 2097? The developments don't have to even provide any parking spaces. Imagine you take that 43 out and you add another, 40, 50 units or what have you, then you're gonna have an issue on that corner. That parking lot is being used, maybe not as heavily as every other parking lot, but it is being used. I think that's what I have. I don't want to drag this. I'm kind of, thank you, Mr. Calvert. I don't have.
If I could add one clarifying point to the council and mayor for the parking. If you notice in the RFP that we do ask they abide by all city zoning requirements. AB 2097 would be if we decided to give up that parking. That is a very important distinction. The reason why we were pursuing a ground lease is that we retain the control over those regulations and we only change those, whether it's additional density, incentives, parking, if this council provides that direction to do so. Right now, we're looking at this as a by right project. That's the intent and that's the goal here.
Right, I appreciate that because that was one of my points I wanted to make. I have so many notes, I didn't get it, because it says that they have to comply with parking requirements. Correct. Then a paragraph below it, it says we do not, there isn't a requirement to replace the 43 parking spaces.
Not the replacement, correct.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's not absolving them of parking responsibility as of now. Again, when we get in, if we go that far, we get into those nuts and bolts, city council can make changes and requirements that I would advise that if you go out with more of an ask now so that's on their radar and what they're proposing so that they're not surprised later on that there's suddenly a greater parking requirement. So if there's a desire to replace some of that, let's put that in there now and ask for that. Let's not wait till later on. We want to make sure that those hurdles, those challenges, those things that we may see or they may see as a challenge to developing that property are known now.
And the timing is to issue the RFP, release the RFP in November and get the proposals by January. What date? Didn't say what date.
We haven't set a specific date yet. I think it's gonna depend on the feedback that we received today. If we need to go back and make a number of changes or amendments, we will do that. And then depending on that timing of the release, I anticipate this probably staying open until probably mid-January. We want to get through some of the holidays as well, maybe the end of January.
Have you received any proposals on this project yet?
No
on this
current
lot?
proposals,
No interest. No one approached the.
We've had various people call up and ask whether or not we're interested, and that's long before the discussions have occurred here. We haven't had any recent activity or inquiry at this point in time.
Okay. Is the RFP ready to move forward, or?
Based on what we received from council today and the changes we have to make, ultimately, we do have to finalize it, work with our partner in the city attorney's office to release it. So still be a few weeks.
Okay.
Mr. Gillette?
I'm sorry, just quickly, while we're on the topic, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Garpetian, nobody, I just want to clarify, nobody in staff is advocating for a hotel. Yes, it has come up, but as you know, hotels have the added financial benefit for the city of collecting TOT. That's the reason we have kept that option open.
And I just have a...
Discuss that as well, but.
So I just have a clarifying question. This is not like the Sears project, because the Sears owners were owners of the land. Because this is our land, we control it.
Correct.
And if we want to impose greater restrictions on the development, lower height, lower density, greater green space, whatever that may be, we can do that.
Correct.
Without any objection from the proposer, because we own the property, and they would have to comply with any restrictions we place on it.
Correct. And that is why we're asking if you would like to include some of those considerations. Let's get that on the table for them today so that we can make sure that the proposals are viable. But you can request, if one part we didn't put in that timeline, if you were to move forward with a proposal, it ultimately goes into a development agreement. So this idea that if they make promises or agreements with us, they have to follow through with that, or the development cannot move forward based on what the city council asked for. The idea behind doing a ground lease and not selling this is one, that this could continue to generate revenue in the future, but also that the council, the city maintains complete control. There's no AB 130 that can be used here. There's no AB 2097. Those are all things subject to the council's desire and approval.
And so in the end, let's say we get a bunch of proposals for different things. If there's one that we particularly are interested in, whatever that might be, but isn't entirely compliant with the criteria in, let's say, it has to meet current development standards. Let's say there's something really good, and the developer says, you know, but I need a little bit more on the setback, and I need a little bit greater height and a little bit greater density. We could reject all proposals and get into an exclusive negotiating agreement with anyone that we decide, and play those design games. Well, we can do this, we can do that, no parking, more parking, rooftop amenities, open space, commercial, whatever we want to throw in there, we still have that opportunity to do that.
Correct. You are the review authority. You are the design review authority. So if you would like to grant certain exceptions, you may do that. You may continue to negotiate those points as we move forward. Obviously, that would need to be finalized before completing a development agreement and moving forward with the development. But yes, you can play with those.
And would that be a three out of 5 vote requirement, or 4 out of 5 in a development agreement?
Essentially, usually it's just 3 out of a majority vote, unless there's some sort of zone change that's required for the proposal, but.
Okay.
We're asking for this to comply with existing zoning, not change zoning.
I understand. But that even deviating from the existing zoning is something that a council majority could decide to do if they felt it was in their best interest at some later point in the process.
If that was something council wished to consider.
I mean,
yep.
they could. Let's say there's a really great, I don't know what's really great anymore, but let's say a really great use is in there, and they say, well, I need a little tweak here, and I need a little tweak there. Council could decide to make those tweaks.
Those I would say it's a little bit different. You're talking about design, variances, height, setback, things of that nature. Again, you're the design review authority, so yes, you can grant those. If you're talking about a zone change, that's going to be a very, very different process. It's going to take a much longer process to get to. If you're talking about the aesthetics of it, the zoning requirements, the development requirements, if you will, yes, you are allowed to make changes to that. You are allowed to grant up to a certain percentage change deviation anyways, but as a design review authority, you can grant that.
But not a large zoning.
No, if somebody
Because that would be a
proposed a
spot
factory, you couldn't
zoning.
do that.
That would be a spot zoning if we were to change zoning for a
Depending on the
particular.
circumstances. But again, just to make clear though, if a project comes in and it needs either a variance or, a exception to the zoning code or the DSP, that would then require either that the variance be approved or that it fall within one of the incentives under the DSP or that it fall, some other
We're
statutory
still
authorized.
limited. We don't have unfettered
Correct.
discretion as to changing the requirements. Okay. Mr. Brotman, did you have a question?
I did. Let me ask one question. I have some comments. I know several years ago we did a parking utilization analysis. Do you know when we did that?
I want to say that was 2018, 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 17. I don't know off the top of my head.
It's been a while. I know at the time we concluded, I wasn't on council then, but I remember listening to it. And we concluded that we did have ample parking in the downtown, and this was pre-COVID. So we did have ample parking. I guess because parking really is the question here, there's a parking lot. I would like to see us revisit that if that's possible, so that we can really definitively talk about what the parking conditions are in our downtown. I mean, I can talk about my own experience parking in that area. Unlike Mr. Durham, I go to that lot behind Goodwill, and I've never had a problem finding a spot. But I don't want to base things off of these anecdotes or impressions. I think we should use data, right? And for instance, I remember from that analysis, like our structures are really underutilized.
Correct.
And we have a parking structure just 600 feet away from this parking lot.
Correct.
Right? We have the exchange 600 feet away with lots of space. So as far as, people saying, the businesses are going to be devastated, I don't get that. But I would like to see that updated so that we're really talking on the basis of data and not just speculating, not just using our impressions. So I don't know. I know that was a big undertaking at the time, and I don't know what that's going to involve. Maybe there's a way we can do a cheaper refresh, which is not like the full-blown study. Anyway, if we could, that would be one question/comment that I have. I have a couple other comments, but I'll let the others ask their questions first.
I just have a follow-up to that. I don't know what the process was for the 2017-18, but don't you already have current data on how many cars are going through and how much money we're making off, and how many cars are parking anyway? So why would there need to be some heavy, long study for it?
It doesn't factor in the AM, PM, peak usage, things of that nature, to the point that was made earlier. So obviously that's something we would want to consider. But then that becomes a council priority of whether or not those maybe handful of days, weekends, nights is enough to justify maintaining that parking lot in its current status. Yes, we can pull the revenue. The parking garages are a little bit easier for us to pull that information of because they're ticketed. The parking lots don't have the same kind of regulatory. They don't have the stops to them that they do in the parking garages. So what I'm saying there is that we also it may appear as a higher usage. That may be because people are not paying.
Okay. And then did that study include parking lots that are not owned by the city? Because I know right in the back, there's always a confusion. There's a parking lot, which I've been wanting to address because people park there and think it's a city lot. Turns out it's a private lot, and for us to have proper signage for visitors to for our lots to note that it's city-owned, because I get a lot of complaints from folks for the machine in the back lot. But data on those lots is not included in your study, right?
I would need to go back and look at that study. That study was actually managed by our Public Works Department. I know that it counted street parking, our city parking lots, our parking garages. I don't know how extensive it was in the private parking realm.
Councilmember Satrian, that study, I'm trying to find out when, I've forgotten the exact date, but it did not include private parking lots. It was only, that study was commissioned for city-owned parking lots and structures.
All right.
questions or comments?
My one comment, I will say, look, I'm open to hearing what what comes before this council to consider. My concern is the parking, ensuring that parking is not reduced with any proposals that come here. Other than that, I'm going to keep an open mind because I don't know if anyone will even make any proposals for anything, and perhaps all the proposals that are presented to us, none of them are aligned with what we envision for that portion of downtown. I don't want to completely shut the door on any suggestions or ideas. We'll see what folks come to us with, and then after that, we can go over it with a finer tooth comb. But from the outset, my main concern is reduction of parking is not something I'm interested in that area, in the downtown. But that area specifically, I remember, by the way, there was a question asked whether anyone has come to the city with proposals. Not to me. I don't know if to staff. You mentioned, not in recent times, but there was actually one item that came before one of the deliberative bodies of the city. I want to say it was perhaps City Council. It was a proposal for, and the mayor may help me refresh my memory. There was something that had come up for that lot to develop a while back, and there was significant concern raised from some of the businesses in that area. I remember Carousel Restaurant was one of them. And it was heard during the open session of the council. There were a number of people who spoke about the impacts on their parking. You can go back and look at the archive minutes, but, do you recall that? It was a hotel. Yeah, sure. I think it was a hotel.
Councilmember
Those were for the parking
Kasakian,
lots.
yeah, it wasn't, the proposal wasn't for this particular parking lot.
It wasn't for that?
No, it was,
Goodwill lot.
It was a Goodwill
Correct.
lot and a lot behind Carousel. It was a two-part.
Yeah.
It was a two-part hotel that was being proposed
Sure,
there. I believe
but
that
in
was
the
original
general
hotel
area,
income.
right? So it was in the same area as
Yeah,
this
it
is
was the
being
larger
proposed, yeah.
lots. Yeah.
So for that reason, I mean, it's stone's throw from one and the other. I would ask that staff go back, review what those comments were from the public. I think you'll have a lot of similar comments, and take that into consideration in terms of the parking impacts it would have. And again, my preference would be parking not be reduced through any proposal, whatever that may be.
So, just so I'm clear on whether I want to agree with you or not, when you say parking should not be reduced, you mean replace the 43?
Yes.
Or don't let the required parking for its use be reduced?
Replace the 43. And obviously, it will matter if they say, hey, we're replacing the 43, but our development is not going to provide any parking for us. That would be also a concern, because then it makes the whole point of preserving the 43 moot.
Wouldn't those be things that, whatever we end up getting, be part of the discussion anyway at that point?
But I think we need to put it beforehand, because it will determine the types of proposals, because there's a cost associated with providing parking linked to the specific project versus what is there standalone to the city. I mean, there is a financial cost of building parking. Subterranean, above ground, concrete, it's somewhere anywhere between $60,000 to like $100,000 per spot, depending on the type of development. So that's something that we need to ensure. So for my input, it would be to make sure that city parking is not reduced, and that whatever project is proposed, or whatever proposals come before us, whatever they may be, also provide parking for that proposal. Does that make sense, Mayor? Thanks.
Mr. Garbett?
Well, I agree with Mr. Kasakian. I think this is a small lot, but since it has an alley, does it have an alley in the back? I think it does, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, it does.
Okay. So the problem with providing parking, if you have only one access, is it gets mixed with public parking and I don't know, whatever, if it's a apartment building or a hotel, the parking gets mixed. So this one has an access from the alley as well. They can build a subterranean and access it from the alley for their project, and public can use surface parking from the street, from Maryland itself. So I use that parking lot a lot because we go to Panda Inn very often. If you go 9 in the morning, there's nobody there. But from 11 on, 10:30 until 2:30, 3 o'clock, then from 6 until 9 or 10, those parking lots are heavily used. And some people, they want to park in the parking lots, parking structures, and some, if they want to come in and pick up something, and they want to use the surface parking lots. I think right now, building on a leased land for as far as development goes, it's very tough to get financing for it. I think we need to know what we're facing so we can structure an RFP that we will get efficient or good projects, basically. I agree the parking lots have to be replaced, the 43 parking spaces, and the project has to have a parking, and if it's a housing project, it has to have open space, private open space. We get projects that some of them don't have even close to half the open space that they need to provide, private open space that they need to provide. As far as putting a hotel in there, it's a small lot. If you don't have 100 rooms and plus, it's very tough to get a brand for it. If you are 80 rooms, 65 to 70 rooms is your break even, basically. You get an 80-room hotel, you're not going to generate that much TOT from it. And if you want to lease it, it's a different story. You have to come up with number of units, and based on that, it will determine the lease value. It's easy to do. But my goal is we've been talking about this, and I think this is one of the projects we need to look into it and have a formula to give incentives for developers to build condominium projects. This is a great lot. It's in downtown. They can replace the parking. If you give them incentives, they can build condominiums, ownership housing. Right now, if they stick to what's allowed over there, they can build maybe 30 units, 35 units, which is a good environment to live in. The building will be about 35,000 square feet based on our code. And you can build about 30, 33 units, 1,000 square foot condominiums. Perfect. I think before releasing this RFP, maybe we need to look into how can we structure this so it will attract developers to build condominiums. Is it the fees that we can give them some break? Is it the cost of the lease, maybe the land? Whatever. We can come up with a formula to build a nice project for 2-bedroom, 2-bath condominium project, and they can replace the parking as well, because if you have 43 on surface parking, you can build 43 parking spots in the subterranean. Every unit can have 1.5 parking, and with today's requirements, it's pretty good. And this will bring young families to downtown as well, to be able to live in downtown. They can be more affordable than market rates. We've been talking about giving, down payment assistance or what have you. This will be part of it. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to really put our money where our mouth is and really try to come up with a plan to provide ownership housing in Glendale, because that's it's really needed. That's where I am. Other than that, I'm not in favor of just having proposals come in and 6 months later we tell them, well, we don't like any of them, c'est la vie. If we want to put an RFP out, maybe we should take our time and prepare the RFP, maybe with the incentive for the condominiums. Maybe it has to come back for us to review it and see what are the terms of these RFPs, and make it really attractive for developers. They want to build it. Believe me, there are people out there that they will build it if there are some incentives, especially the insurance requirements they have, builder's liability insurance. If we can give them breaks on our fees, they will build it. So that's where I am. As far as the other, no one is going to build 30 units on this site on a land lease because it won't make any sense. I think my goal is to have it done for condominiums, and I won't support. I don't know. I can see the writing on the wall. There won't be any, if they come in, they have to use the incentives, 95 feet, 6 stories, 3.0 FAR, in order to make sense. Otherwise, on a land lease with a small site, it's very difficult to get financing for it. And you may not even get good projects. But if it's condominium and we have a formula, I think we can do it. That's what I'm saying.
Wouldn't the proposals have the opportunity to specify these different things that Mr. Garpetian mentioned?
Correct. They would have the ability to propose any type of project they want. They could also ask for potential incentives under the understanding that if those were provided, then prevailing wage would kick in. But yes, of course, any of those proposals could include that.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm, just for my colleagues, I don't think I have any more questions, but I believe that we should just throw a wide net and let people come back with whatever they want to come back with. And if it's something that works for us, or if we're interested in it, then we can negotiate. I do think that there is something to the parking, but I would love to see some sort of data, and not just what my experience is or any of the individuals that I've spoken. I know that I park in that lot often, or any of those lots around, but I also know the one on Orange is, there's never been an issue for me to find parking day or night there, and it's across the street. But I think people should just get creative, and they can come back with whatever they think would be worthwhile. And of course, condos would be one of those things.
So the only issue I'm seeing here, just in moving this forward, condos would be an outright sale of the property.
Right.
We would lose all control over that at that point.
Correct.
So we can't ask some people to consider it as a lease and others to say as an outright purchase. So we need to rectify that issue.
The city manager acknowledged there that we would accept, obviously, proposals. The intent here is not to sell. But I guess if somebody came forward with that type of proposal, and we could bring it forward to the council if there would be an interest. We do know that condominiums are of interest and a priority of this council and this community, and even for us in the department, we know that's something we would like to see. It's just whether or not we were to receive something like that, then we would have to kind of pivot in that conversation at that point.
If I may suggest, Mr. Mayor, Member of City Council, based on the feedback that you have received, we could adjust the RFP, make some modifications for it, not to be as generic as we had planned. We could include that the city will be open to ownership development, and perhaps as well as potential for sale if that's going to be part of the ownership development proposals. So not ruling it out completely, as I had previously noted based on your feedback, but we can leave that open and as an option.
I never said anything about selling the property. There are ways of building condominiums without selling the property. So that's the only thing I will look at. The rest of them, it will be another housing project like the rest of them on Central Avenue.
I, for one, would never be okay with selling any of our lots.
don't think-
So
I mean,
that's not,
Condominium implies a fee simple, which is not limited by years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, how can you get an ownership interest?
I mean, if the council are interested,
Well,
it's
something
something
different.
we could look at, but you could essentially create air rights parcels, air rights condominium parcels and keep the underlying fee. But to that extent, I don't know what value you keep in that when you, versus other types of ground leases where you ultimately have the fee simple to the entire property. But again, if that's something council wanted to pursue, we'd look at what the restrictions and ramifications would be.
I mean, whether we would, council member, whether you would consider that or not, still you would maintain that right. But I think the idea is let's cast as broad a net as possible. And if selling it is not a majority decision, then it won't pass. Mr. Brotman.
Yeah, so as far as comments go, I mean, we've talked a lot of times on this dais about condominiums, and I think we're in agreement that we want to create more ownership housing. I don't know, I had the same question in my mind about, how you would do that without selling it. If there's a model for that that works, that's great. Maybe we can, suggest that as a possible option, but I would have concerns about selling it because for all the reasons that have come up. We want to maintain control. We don't want a situation where somebody comes in with an AB 130 and we have our hands tied behind our back. So we want to avoid that. But if there's a way to do it, I'm not opposed to that. As far as, in general, I support us doing this. I think we're in a learning process. This is our first of this kind, and it may not pan out, but I think that, there's not a lot of downside to making the effort and seeing what comes in. So I think we should do it. And then finally, as far as the parking is concerned, I wouldn't want to make that an obligation, a hard obligation, until we have the data, until we know whether those 43 parking spots are really needed, whether that's the best and highest use of that particular asset. And if the parking study that we did in 2018, if those are still the conditions, then it's unlikely that we need those 43 spots, especially given that 600 feet away we have a large parking structure which doesn't get a lot of use. But I hesitate to say that we insist that we have the replacement of the 43 or we don't have the replacement of the 43 until we have the data. So I would not want to make that an absolute condition. I would like to keep that open. Because if we do that, if we say that they have to replace the parking and it's not really needed based on the data, then we're giving up value there. We're going to be getting a lower return because we're requiring a developer to put in parking that may not be what that area really truly needs. So that's where I am on that. I don't want to make that a hard and fast. The only other point I would say is that as these proposals come in, we absolutely do have to talk to the Downtown Glendale Association and make sure that they are fully across what we're doing and understand and not that they have a veto or anybody in the city has a veto, but that they are given ample opportunity to express any concerns that they have. So that has to be part of the process.
Okay, are you taking good notes, Mr. Calvert?
Many, Mayor.
And just so we're clear, this is not going to be scored. You're not going to come to us with a score and say, this is our top rating. It's going to come all equally before us as council to review, to consider, to refine, et
Correct.
cetera.
We'll highlight where, we see opportunities for the largest financial return, because that is one of the most important parts. But at the end of the day, we may have an apples to oranges comparison. If it's hotels versus housing, condominiums versus rental, whatever may come in, it will not be possible for us to score that. That is the council's decision what your priorities are.
Good, we like to do that. So with all that input, is there a motion for approval?
I'm happy to move it.
How would you like us to frame this?
Can I ask one more question before we take a motion? Just circling back to what Councilman Brotman was saying about the data for the parking lots and everything. When do you think you will have that information?
We'll have to talk with Public Works, look at the study that they did, the year they did it. We may have to look at just doing an analysis on this lot and seeing its performance during PM and AM peak periods over the holiday season. We could have those numbers calculated that could help inform it. What we can do in the interim is include into this RFP language for consideration that the replacement of that parking may be required. And that's something that will at least be on their radar. That's our goal here, is that it's at least on their radar.
That seems reasonable.
Okay. Mr. Galania, let's move this item so we can.
Just so that you know, for your information, the parking utilization study was conducted in 2019. So potentially we can get an update to that report, not necessarily do it from scratch all over again, but we'll have to get with Public Works, like Mr. Calvert mentioned, and get a proposal from the consultant who conducted the study.
So how long would that take?
We'll have to find out.
Because if the RFP goes out next month or this month, and it's due in 2 months, month and a half.
We
you know,
can
considering-
hold off on issuing the RFP for a couple of
That's what I
weeks.
was gonna say until we get the.
So
Then we're going to have a whole other discussion about, is it enough parking? Is it not enough parking? I think the language that Mr. Calvert indicated, that you may have to replace the parking, should be included, so they at least have that in their concept of what's going to be done.
Correct.
And
They
then
have
we
an
can,
idea of worst-case scenario.
then
if
we
you
can
will.
refine it as we go.
I agree with that. I think the may is the right word, so that it is on the radar, but, you know, and maybe some people will provide multiple proposals, one with replacing the parking and one without, or some combination.
Tell them
of-
why it's a may, because we're undergoing a
Utilization study.
investigation, utilization study.
What is the rush on this RFP that we don't want to have that answer for them from the beginning? You know, because they have to consider, when you say may, they don't know how to design their project. Because they don't want to design it and bring it to us, and then 3 months later you say, well, the studies show that we need the parking lot to be replaced. I just don't understand what is is there an urgency on this thing? I don't.
This was something that the council has asked us to consider and bring forward, so
No,
we
I
did.
appreciate that, I know.
As part of this, the council, or excuse me, the proposer is not going to be giving us a full design as part of this. They're going to be looking at this from a financial perspective, amassing a stage one, if you will, for a DRB. Also, if we do this analysis just on that parking lot to understand the utilization of that, we'll have that in the meantime, and there is always a period where there's a kind of cutoff period, if you will, with an RFP where questions can be asked, and that's something that we can provide as an addendum during this process. That's fairly common in these kind of RFPs. And we can let them know in the RFP that we are embarking on this.
I just don't understand.
All right, does someone want to move to A?
There was a motion, was there not?
Yeah, I'll move to A.
Was there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please. With comments?
Yes.
And
The comments by the council, but specifically as to the parking, that it'll provide, the RFP will provide that the city may require the replacement of the parking.
Yes. Yes,
On the
exactly
completion of
that.
the parking utilization study, okay.
roll call, please.
Councilmember Asadrian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Stain.
Kasakian,
Yes.
and Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item is number 3, community development regarding initiation of code amendments to Title 16 and Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code related to accessory dwelling unit condominiums. A motion providing direction and initiating amendments to Title 16 and Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code related to accessory dwelling unit condominiums.
Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, I'm just going to turn it over to Vista Zeti, our principal planner, otherwise known as our ADU expert.
Oh, no. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, and thank you. I'm just gonna get right into it, if you don't mind. So generally, zoning standards for ADUs were first established in 2017, and they've been amended several times since to comply with state law, which, as we all know, is constantly changing. Our most recent update was in 2024 with Ordinance 6034. Our ADU standards are codified in GMC Section 3034080. Generally, they require ministerial approval, and there's very limited standards that we have the ability to apply to ADUs. Assembly Bill 1033 went into effect January 2024. It allows cities to opt in to allow ADU condominiums. There are approximately 4 cities that have opted in: San Jose, San Francisco, San Diego, and Santa Monica. And Santa Monica is also the only one that requires it to be sold to a qualified buyer, which is a person of low or moderate income. Should the city choose to initiate code amendments to allow ADU condos, changes to both the zoning code, Title 30, and the subdivision code, Title 16, will be required. The provisions of AB 1033 are codified in Government Code Section 66340 through 66342. I included a copy of that as Exhibit 1 to the staff report, just for reference. There are 2 separate provisions under those government codes that allow for ADUs to be sold as condominiums. The first establishes a state-mandated program that's already in effect. where a city is required to allow ADU sales as condos if certain criteria are met. The criteria includes it has to be developed by a nonprofit corporation, which is specifically defined in the law. It has to be sold and occupied by a qualified buyer, which again is an individual or family of low or moderate income. There's a 45-year affordability restriction, and the unit must be sold or resold to a qualified buyer during that time. It also requires separate utilities. The second provision allows a city to opt in and adopt an ordinance to allow the separate sale of the primary unit and the ADU as condos. The key requirements under that state law include compliance with the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act, which requires an HOA as well as CC&Rs for the property. It requires compliance with both the Subdivision Map Act as well as any local ordinance regulating subdivisions, which would be Title 16 in the Municipal Code. It requires safety inspections before recordation of the condo map, and it also, that can also be done through a COO from the building official. It also requires consent from any lien holder before recording the condo map, and that consent must be provided as written evidence as part of the entire process. And it also requires a separate utilities. So currently under Title 16, there's two ways to approve a condominium. The first is a new condo. That's for new construction projects where the units are not occupied. It's typically done during the construction process. New condo maps require a public hearing, and they're subject to Planning Commission review. The second way is through a condo conversion map. That allows the conversion of existing units. The process for condo conversions is slightly more streamlined than a new condo map. They're done at the director level. The hearing is waived unless someone requests a hearing, and that someone has to be an individual that receives a notice, which is typically anyone within 500 feet that owns property or is an occupant, as well as tenants of the subject property. So if one of those individuals requests a hearing is then held. Should council initiate amendments to allow ADU condominiums, staff is recommending to do so through the condo conversion process for a few reasons. It does give owners a little more flexibility in pursuing their building permits, undertaking construction, maybe occupying the unit for a bit. There isn't a mandated hearing, and that provides a more streamlined application process for owners. It's also consistent with how other cities have been doing it. There isn't a lot to go off of because not a lot of cities have adopted this, but generally they're all doing condo conversion maps. A few additional considerations just for discussion would be tailoring the condo conversion application to ADUs, which generally ADUs aren't subject to the same standards as a typical multifamily development like open space, parking, landscaping, and the like. We could also, modify condo map requirements for ADUs to make it similar to other administrative applications like the ADR AUP process. The council can also consider doing what Santa Monica did in the interest of getting more affordable housing is if you're doing this, we're going to require it to be sold to a qualified buyer. Staff is recommending that the council initiate amendments and provide direction. The amendments would be to both Title 16 and Title 30. And specifically as it relates to the options provided in the report, we recommend allowing this through the condo conversion process and also tailoring it to the more unique characteristics of an ADU over a typical multifamily development. That actually concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
I have a question. Is there any legal issue involving mandating or prohibiting someone who's not an affordable buyer for purchasing the ADU? I mean, that seems very unfair that I build an ADU, I want to sell it, but I can only sell it, well, as Santa Monica did, we don't have to adopt that, but we can require it only to be sold to an affordable buyer. That seems unfair.
I'm not sure how detailed we looked into it, but we don't think so because, again, it's because we would have the discretion to say we're not going to allow this at all. We would have the discretion to impose reasonable conditions. And certainly because we are trying to increase our affordable housing stock, I think there'd be enough a basis, a legislative basis to say, this is what we want to do.
But that's the way Santa Monica is, that
Yes.
it has to be an affordable buyer.
Yes, I'm not sure how many applications they've had since that was adopted. I haven't been able to get in touch with someone from their office. The only of those 4 cities that have adopted something, San Jose is the only one that I was able to get in touch with. They've received 2 applications and they've had it in effect for over a year now.
So you would create this homeowners association with 2 members,
Potentially, yes.
me and the
Other
my
guy.
ADU,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be taking votes on reserve funds and homeowners dues and who's gonna be the manager and who are we gonna contract with to do the gardening. Good luck to that. That's all. And it could be a 1-1. I imagine there'd be a provision for breaking the tie, but that just sounds, I see problems, but that's not what we're here for today. Do we have any cards on this item?
Mayor, we do. We have 2 cards, and we have a caller.
Let's hear from the public.
Mike Mohill.
Evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I'd just like to take 30 seconds and make a comment about the thing on parking lots, about making money. You know, it says right here on the staff report, this 30 seconds here,
No,
it
no,
says
no,
the
Mr.
following.
Mahal, I can't-
Ground lease,
I
the
can't let you
site
do
development
that.
provides
I cannot
financial
let you do
return.
that. Please, Mr. Mahal, anything about the ADUs and the condo conversion issue before us, you can come back tonight and speak during general comments for a full 5 minutes if you so choose.
Okay, what's the purpose of an ADU? To destroy single-family residential neighborhoods. That's what it's been from day one. Thank you, the Progressive Liberal Democrats in Sacramento. You won. You won, and now we have 3 progressive on council, Dan Brotman, Ellen Satrian, Artie Kisaki, and sometimes the mayor. The way you vote, sir, okay? We now can have ADUs, the latest is on top of a garage. On top of a garage. So your neighbor next door has a second story looking into his yard. This is terrible. You think you bought into a private neighbor, quiet, but what are you gonna have? You're gonna have an apartment building basically next door to you. They keep changing the laws for ADUs. And who does it benefit? Well, if a homeowner wants to sell his property, yes. Remember, ADUs do not require parking. I met a friend recently who told me he had an ADU in Hollywood. And you know what? There was never any parking in the neighborhood. So when he went shopping, he would drop his groceries in front of his front door and then spend the next 20 minutes looking for a parking lot somewhere in the area. Somewhere in the area. ADUs. The worst thing. You know, is this communist China or Russia? We're looking for quality of life. And what's happening in California, people are leaving. My niece just told me she just bought property in Texas. And she was born in Los Angeles, Glendale, Burbank. And she's leaving in time. That's a bad sign. I'm sorry to see her leave. But why? Because of the laws of the state of California. No matter where you live. She lives in Temecula. But she's moving to Texas. Says, Uncle Mike, I can't take the taxes, the fees. Even me here in little Temecula. ADUs is the tip of it all. It started there with Laura Freeman, who was authored the ADUs, if you all recall. Thank you.
All right, so on this,
We have more.
oh, we have more? All right, go ahead.
Couple more.
Alan Durham. Alan, would you like to speak? Mayor and council members, right after Alan Durham, I have one caller on this item.
Mayor Najarian, members of the council, I'm Alan Durham. Unlike Mr. Mohill, I'm actually a supporter of ADUs. I have nothing against them. My next door neighbor has converted his garage into an ADU and it's fine. I do have some concerns about splitting the ownership of ADUs and the primary residence, only because I don't think there's been a long enough period of time. Sometimes there are unintended consequences, unforeseen consequences, and I think it, in my opinion, might be more prudent to see how things go in San Diego, San Jose, Santa Monica, et cetera. Not that many cities have adopted this yet, and I don't think there's any rush for Glendale to, there's obviously not a huge demand from what Vista said she had been able to get from San Jose. And I just think it might be better to see how things go in other cities and, you know, and maybe learn something from that when we pass our own ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fernando Roldan. Fernando, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, folks. Once again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I would have to also disagree with both Mr. Mulvihill and Mr. Allen, because to me, I would also be in favor of the ADUs for one little reason, one simple reason. Mr. Mulvihill, Mr. Allen, I ask one favor also from the mayors and the council. The Americans with Disabilities Act. Why do I bring that up? Because the thing is, we do need more condos, we do need more apartments, and I am in favor of more wheelchair accessible units with flat bathrooms for some of us who are wheelchair users. We need that. We need it also to be affordable, and especially for some of us who are working class citizens and people with disabilities. Why am I saying that? Because the thing is, we need to work together, not against each other. That's all I ask, that the ADU be considered, especially in terms of making sure that some of us in wheelchairs, canes, walkers, blind, deaf, you know, could be included in these kind of projects. That's all I ask. That's all I ask, that there'll be more togetherness, especially in this city that I call Glendale. Thank you very much, and that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Mayor, that is all the callers.
Thank you. Councilmember Kasakian.
Thank you. So I don't necessarily agree with some of the concerns or issues. I think Mr. Mohill has perhaps concerns and complaints that are legitimate, but I don't know if they necessarily coincide with what this is proposing. Are younger people finding California and certain parts of California less affordable? Certainly. But, you know, the solution to that, to say that, you know, ADUs are one of the reasons why they're not able to find affordable homes, it just doesn't really align. And maybe I misunderstood you, but here's what I would say. I do know people who have, who want to be first-time home buyers and are looking at what their down payments will be and what their mortgage will be. And oftentimes they find that having an ADU on their property and using that to supplement, you know, or reduce the cost by having a form of rent income helps them reach that affordability. I've spoken to folks in Glendale, young families who for that reason have been proponents of ADUs. Not myself necessarily, but I also know that we have an aging population, baby boomers who are going to become seniors. Many people in my generation who are sandwich generation, where we have young children, but also may have to at some point care for our aging parents, find the idea of what we call today an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, but used to be called a granny shack, right? Find the ability to have additional unit on property, to have loved ones nearby, not to mention folks who may be graduating college and moving back home. There's a number of factors. It's not only one reason. I also recognize the fact that some of these may cause issues in neighborhoods in terms of, impacts on the overall parking of the areas, and these are problems that a lot of Glendale has had for many years. On this particular item, though, where it's allowing for the sale of one of the ADUs, again, it's going to cause issues, as Mayor Najarian pointed out, possibly down the line. However, I don't see it, and I don't see a lot of people asking for it. But it could be a way for some, it could be the answer for some families. I see it as broadening the rights of property owners to do what they want with their properties. Again, I don't believe I would ever do it for myself, but it could be the answer for other folks. So I don't see a problem with supporting this and seeing what happens with it. Ultimately, it's the property owner that has to take the risk when they decide to go into this. And there may be legitimate reasons for them to want to do it. I don't anticipate there may be a lot of interest, but I would support it to see where it goes.
Thank you. Councilmember Saturian.
Sure. Well, I see this as an opportunity to broaden for those who cannot afford to purchase a home. I think for the younger generation and even many friends of mine who have moved out of Glendale but grew up here because they simply can't afford to purchase a home in Glendale given the prices. So it not only provides additional income for somebody to do whatever they want with their property, but more importantly, it provides additional homes for purchase. And so I anticipate that with increased pricing, you're going to see a lot of folks that are also looking for at least their starter home to be something, especially when we don't see condominiums being built. And so I support this. I wouldn't want to add additional restrictions like Santa Monica to it. If there is some sort of program that we can help develop through our housing department, I think that would be something worthwhile looking at, where we can assist. Maybe this is the opportunity for the first-time home buyers program to come back, because you would naturally have these ADU units be at a lower cost than what you would have for a traditional single-family home, which would also allow for less down payment and so forth. So that possibly opens up an opportunity for a first-time home buyers program that we haven't been able to create given the housing market right now. So I'll leave it at that, and I support this, and I thank staff for preparing the report and bringing it to us.
Mr. Brotman.
I have one or two questions, and then I'll make comments after that. So my question is whether this applies to multifamily ADUs. I think it probably does.
It does, yes.
It does. So my related question is, in the San Jose case, do we have any idea what those two applications were?
I do not. I was not able to get a lot of information from them. It's been emails, so I haven't been able to talk to someone.
Okay, I'm kind of curious. I would
Me too.
I would guess that probably the people who are going to do this are not like a single home and one ADU, but maybe some of these situations where you have multiple ADUs in a multifamily. I don't know, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But that would, like, if you're going to go through all this work, just for like one, 800 square foot ADU, it seems like a lot, right?
Right.
So.
Just as a side note, it would not apply to JADUs at all.
Would not apply to JADUs,
Correct.
right.
I just want to
That would-
clarify that.
Yeah. So, I mean, sorry, I asked for this to be considered because, we've been talking about ownership opportunities. And when I read about this bill being signed a couple years ago, it seemed like, okay, this is something interesting. Maybe we should look at it. Is there any downside risk? And it sounds like it really just, as Councilmember Kasakian said, it just broadens the rights of property owners and gives people more options. So I think, it seems like something that we should do. I don't necessarily think we need to wait for other cities to do it first. I think we can be leaders. And I would, as far as these additional considerations, I agree we should not add any affordability requirement. I mean, I would like this to be as streamlined as possible because I think it's probably going to be hard enough to do, and we'll probably not see a whole bunch of applications. But the more we can streamline it, the better. So I would support the first two of those additional considerations and not the third. And I mean, I guess my only concern in the briefing I raised this is like how much staff time, how much work do you have to put in for something where we may, in the course of a year, get 2 applications? Like, is it worth it? So I kind of, that's the only reason I'm hesitating at all.
Yeah, so there will be a significant amount of staff time involved because this will require coordination with building, fire, the Glendale Water and Power. We will need to reach out to like cable companies, GUSD. So there's a lot of coordination that will be required on top of what's in our work plan. I don't know necessarily that it's a lot of work, but it is, I think it's an important thing to look into, and it is something we can add to our work plan. It's not gonna, come with the ADU updates next quarter.
Right, so that's, so I would say I support it, but we have probably a lot of other things in the queue that are more impactful, so let's just be cognizant of that.
I'd love to finish drive-throughs.
I don't think it needs to come back to us tomorrow, but, but I do support us moving down the path.
Mr. Garbettian.
A few questions for you before, sorry. So there are 2 provisions. One is the state mandated one.
Correct.
Am I correct? So the state mandated one applies only to nonprofits, right? Qualified nonprofits that they purchase a house, build an ADU, and they can sell that ADU.
Correct. It has to be developed by a qualified nonprofit to a qualified buyer as defined.
And qualified buyer is a lower income.
Low and moderate, I believe,
Low
is
and
the
moderate.
language.
And when they say qualified nonprofit, what kind of a nonprofit is that? Just an example of it.
I think it would be a nonprofit that deals with affordable housing development. Habitat for Humanity comes to mind. I don't know that cities have had a lot of these come through that I could, see who's applying for them, but.
Okay. And in the multifamily zones, if you have, let's say, because with today's codes, if you have 8 units, you can build 8 ADUs as well, something like that, right?
Potentially.
Am I correct? Yeah. So if you build 8 ADUs, you can sell these ADUs and then still have the rest of the property as an apartment building?
That is something we'd have to look into. Generally, you'd have to do condos for everything. I think it gets a little more complicated when you want to leave it for the, multifamily in the front and ADUs in the back. It's something we'd have to look into.
Because I've never seen a property that is, multifamily rental units on one side and condominiums on the other side in the same lot.
Correct.
So-
Neither have I. I don't know that it's no, you can't do it. It's something we'd need to study.
Right, because even for older units, the ones that were built in 60s, 70s, or even some of them early 80s, converting them into condos is a challenge in general, right? As you mentioned, water, power, safety, fire department, what have you. And if they build these ADUs and they want to sell it, and they can't convert their own old units into condominiums to sell everything at the same time, then it's going to create issues. I just wanted to get a clarification on that. So how does that work? And for residential, let's say if you purchase a house and you demo the house, you build a new house and you build 2 ADUs, you can sell these 2 ADUs separately. Is that how it is? Because the code allows 2 ADUs today, if I'm not mistaken, and a guest quarter.
Similar to the multifamily, you'd have to do each unit. So the single family house would have to be a condo, and the 2 ADUs would be condo units as well.
So you have 3 condos in a single family lot?
Correct.
On a single family lot?
Correct.
Okay. And then you have to create the HOAs and bylaws and everything like that.
Yep.
Am I correct? Because, again, that's another question for if you build condominiums or if you want to convert it, in order for you to form an HOA, you have to, if I'm not mistaken, sell over 50% of the units for you to have that right to build that HOA. You cannot form it before you sell or you have commitment of selling it, or it has to be sold before you form the HOA. And with 2 units, I don't know how would that work. So where I stand is, I think we're trying to jump on everything and be the leader in everything without knowing most of the facts. I have an issue with that, and this is going to turn the residential neighborhoods into multi-residential neighborhoods, naturally, and I'm not in favor of it in single-family residential neighborhoods. But if the multifamily, because it's multifamily already, and they are building the ADUs over there, if they can convert the whole thing and want to sell it as condominiums, that's what I've been talking about for a long time. The existing units, some of the ones that are built in 80s or 90s that are, good enough, they're 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, air-conditioned, central air, and 2-car garage, converting them into condominiums, and if they have ADUs, they can convert that too. It's a good way of providing that ownership housing that we need. But on single-family residence, when you're primary resident, your single-family house becomes a condominium in a residential neighborhood. I have an issue with that. So I would not support that, but in condominium, in the multi-residential area, I'll support it.
Okay.
Okay, I have some comments. I'm going to try and be brief on it. I do not support this, and I believe there are incredible, I can't even say it, incredible unintended consequences that we're going to see in this process. I have a house. I thought it was a great idea to build an ADU. I built an ADU. So not only do I have to invite the owner of that ADU, after I've sold it and taken his money, into the board of directors of the homeowners association, we have to agree on the fees, the dues, the reserves, the contractors, and if there's going to be any professional management. That itself is going to be crazy. But listen to this, okay? No one's thinking about this, and clearly these folks in Sacramento did not. There is a rule, as you know, for 10-year latent defects in any construction. I sell that ADU to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith comes knocking on my door with a subpoena or a summons and says, you know what, look at all these defects, and you were the builder of this ADU. The plumbing leaks, the electricity is shorted out, the roof is bad, you frauded me in this, and I'm going to sue you. And not only am I going to sue you because you're the builder, as a member of the homeowners association, for which this unit is a part of, you have an obligation as a director of the homeowners association to sue yourself because you're the one that built it. This is crazy. This is bad news. This wasn't thought out unless there's changes made at Sacramento level, exempting and giving liability waivers for this sort of thing. We are going to have problems galore, and I would caution anyone who's even thinking about doing this, opting in, if the city permits the opt-in, you're going to have yourself a hornet's nest. And that person that's suing you for inflated amounts of money, and believe me, they throw in the kitchen sink and they name everything in these lawsuits. That person is someone that you're going to see every day, maybe even parking in your parking spot because maybe it's common areas now. Terrible idea.
I mean,
That's just my opinion.
That's a good point. Is that issue being addressed, or has anyone taken that into consideration in this? The issue that the person providing the housing or who's constructed it, which most of these would be new construction. Sorry, Mayor, to cut you off. They're on the hook for the quality of the structure. And certainly, I think most people would try to do it to the best of whatever they can, but things happen in construction. So how is that issue being addressed?
I do not have an answer for you. That is something we can study as part of bringing an ordinance forward to understand, but I don't know that it's being addressed. I haven't seen anything
that is an
about
issue
it.
that would impact my support on this because, yes, it creates a lot of legal issues.
So anyway, we have a lot ahead of us. We've got closed session. Let's go ahead and, if there's a motion on this, we'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'll move the item with the proviso that we do study that that question, and that this is not necessarily, this should not be jumping the queue ahead of other important considerations that we're working on.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Asadrian?
Yes?
Brotman?
Yes.
Garpetian?
No.
Kasakian?
Yes.
And Mayor Najarian.
No. That concludes our business for the special meeting. Will someone move to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. And I call, you need to reset the,
We're working on it.
okay.
Mayor, we are ready.
Okay, thank you. I call to order the November 4th meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call?
Councilmember Asadrian?
Here.
Brotman?
Here.
Garpetian?
Here.
Kasakian?
Here.
And Mayor Najarian.
Here, will you please read the closed session items?
Item A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, 2 cases brought by Central BWB LLC. B is anticipated litigation, 1 potential case.
Mr. City Attorney, do you anticipate reporting out?
Mr. Mayor, we do not anticipate reporting out, but I just want to note for the record that item 1B, the facts and circumstances that give rise to potential litigation against the city relate to the city council's decision related to the project at the former Sears site located at 236 North Orange, decision of October 21st. So that's related to that, which we've also received a threat of litigation.
Thank you. And we will recess to closed session.